platform Ripple, whose XRP token is in the regulator's legal sites, now has an interesting twist. Sources say a couple of years ago there was a meeting between SEC officials and supposed Bitcoin founder Satoshi Nakamoto. Charlie, I didn't even know that was a person.
It might not be a person, but whoever this guy was, apparently he did punk the SEC. He did punk Tim Draper, guys on your show, a lot of VC and
venture capitalists,
and he does a lot of. So let's unpack this a little bit. Okay, so we're going through all the discovery on this Ripple SEC case. There's a lot of interesting stuff in discovery. We do have the I guess the meeting logs of a guy named Bill Hinman, who was one of the guys that essentially was at the center of SEC crypto regulation that led to the lawsuit against Ripple. So they want to know everything about Bill Hinman, right? So they subpoena everything. We get the phone logs because that's now come up. By the way, phone logs haven't been published lately yet. And then we're reading it. My producer is reading it. And she's like, oh, my God. Bill Hinman met with Satoshi N and Tim Draper? And I'm like, what did you say? Is that a misprint? Yeah, it says right here, August 25th, 2017, meeting with Satoshi N and and Tim Draper. So I said, oh my God, make sure it's not a misprint, and we check it out. And apparently there was a pre-meeting to discuss the merits of the meeting with Satoshi N. I unpacked this. I talked to people that were at the meeting. Here's essentially what went down. Draper was so convinced that he found who Satoshi Nakamoto was. Nakamoto, the founder, the elusive founder of Bitcoin that apparently went missing since 2010, leaving gazillions of dollars of Bitcoin in his account. He was so convinced that he called up the SEC and got a meeting. It was actually a phone call meeting with the SEC, and where they discussed, according to the SEC people there, some mistakes Mr. Nakamoto fake made in creating Bitcoin and how he would fix it. So Draper was really convinced this was him. Now, we should point out, Draper did tweet a little bit about this. Back in 2017, he basically said he was fooled by someone. There it is. That's the old tweet. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mention the SEC meeting. There was one account that talked about an SEC meeting with a fake Nakamoto, but didn't really get into the details. That we have some tremendous details. We should point out, the SEC, at the end of the meeting, thought maybe he was the guy. But then they did their due diligence, and they found out he wasn't. There was a pre-meeting, as I said. There was, Tim Draper was really convinced it was this guy, at least initially. And then it just all fell apart. But, I asked the SEC people involved. I said, because, Satoshi Nakamoto obviously sounds like a guy is from Japan, right? Some people think it's a consortium. Okay, just so you know, I said, does the guy sound Asian? I mean, not really. And I said, well, what kind of tipped you off that maybe it wasn't him? He goes, well, we kind of thought it was him, and he kept talking a good game and talking about like mistakes that he made. So it just left them with like the desire to go out there and try to figure out if it was really him. And as we all know, now it wasn't him. And, now why this is interesting. So the SEC got punked. Yeah, Tim Draper and the SEC got punked. And what does Tim say? We're waiting to hear back from him. I wonder if he ever talked to the guy again, because apparently he knew the guy, like initially. Like he really believed this was the dude that he found. Because remember, this is a huge story. Remember, I think it was Newsweek did a huge cover in 2012 that they found the guy. It was some guy living in somewhere. It is one of the greatest business mysteries. Yeah. Who started Bitcoin? Who created it? Tim Draper and Bill Hinman thought they had their guy. And good thing. Apparently, the SEC had a meeting afterwards where it was disclosed that they were punked. And then they also.